Aloha, everybody. Welcome. My name is Stacy. I am with Hawaii Wildlife Fund, and I am here to share some interesting information with you all about marine debris. So I'm going to start sharing the screen and get a PowerPoint up for you all to see, and we can follow along together. All right, here we go. This is Hawaii Wildlife Fund. We are Hawaii Wildlife Fund. Brianna, Courtney, Magda, Megan, Ohea, Nick, myself, Hannah, Bill. We are Hawaii Wildlife Fund. We are a team of biologists, conservationists, educators, artists, and thousands of volunteers over the years are also part of this team. Okay, and we all come together in one overarching mission, and that is to protect Hawaii's native wildlife. And we do that through research, conservation, and education, like what we're doing today, educating you all about all these things. All right, let's keep going. So who here loves the ocean? Raise your hand. Well, I can't quite see your hands, but I can tell you some things that I've heard from students in the past when we were in classrooms. And they would say things like, I love the ocean because my family, my uncle, my dad like to go fishing and we eat fish. Or I love the ocean because I love to go snorkeling and see all the beautiful ocean life. Or I love the ocean. I love swimming in the ocean so that I can get exercise and it's refreshing and rejuvenating. You surf, body surf, swim, play, all those things have been examples before. I think it's safe to say that we all love the ocean. Make it a very important thing for us to have to take care of. All right, but I'm really here to talk to you all about marine debris. What is that word? Those words, marine debris. Well, let's break it up. Marine. It refers to anything in the ocean. Debris is scattered, just like this photo. You see all this plastic in the photo that is just scattered everywhere? It's trash, it's litter. It is anything that is man-made, that has made its way into the ocean and it's come back on shore or is still out in the ocean. A lot of people are starting to call it ocean plastics now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen it? Have you seen little tiny pieces of plastic at the beach? Or big pieces? Or buoys? Ropes? Nets? All right. On to the next thought here. So there's a saying that the ocean is downhill from everywhere. And it's quite true, especially here in Hawaii, where we have mountainous islands surrounded by ocean. Now, what you're looking at right now is a cross section of what we call an ahupua'a, which is an ancient way of dividing up the land from the mountain to the sea. And as you see in this diagram here, there is fresh water running down from the mountain and into the sea. And you can see that the people who lived on this piece of land were smart and they used that fresh water for their crops right here in the middle. You see that in the plains below the cloud forests. Okay, the water collects high in the cloud forest on the mountain, rains down through the trees onto the ground, and it eventually soaks in and then starts coming out all together in little streams or rivers like this one that you see here, and provides a resource, freshwater resource. We would, as humans, would not be able to survive without fresh water, right? We all drink water every day. You should. So you can see that in the middle here that they are using that fresh water to grow crops to sustain them. And it looks like they lived closer to the ocean. And then the ocean and the coastline provided a lot of resources for these people to be able to live. Okay, and when I say resources, I mean things like food or water or materials that would help your living situation or things that you need to survive, like food and water. All right, that makes sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. Here we have a diagram of the Pacific Ocean. And you see those yellow arrows there? Those refer to all of the ocean currents. And the direction the arrow is pointing is the direction that the water is moving. You can see it starts in the North Pacific, and sometimes it goes into Alaska, but it goes down the California coast and then across the North Equatorial Current and then up the Kuroshio Current. And then there's this weird thing going on over here, but let's just talk about what's going on right here. So in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we're having this shape here that has the Hawaiian Islands in it. And I'm actually right here on the biggest island that you see here. Dark islands are the main Hawaiian Islands where all the people live, all the residents. And then up here we have our Northwest Hawaiian Islands, which are mostly as small atolls that are only occupied by researchers and people doing research and collecting data on all the special, amazing things that live up there that don't exist down here because there's too many people in the main Hawaiian Islands. Anyway, back to marine debris. Why am I showing you this ocean current map? Well, because there is a convergence zones that are happening out in the ocean. And if you imagine, I don't know how many of you have ever had a pool, a circular pool, maybe a hot tub, and you get in it, you go in one direction really, 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 really fast, and you create this really strong current. Now, if there's any kind of debris or dirt or anything in the water, all of that starts to go into the middle where it doesn't really seem to be moving very much, right? We got the water moving really fast on the outside, and it kind of makes this lens and this area where stuff floats. And that's essentially what's happening in the oceans, but on a much, 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 much larger scale, okay? Right in these red circles is where we have the Pacific garbage patches. There's actually garbage patches in every ocean, not just the Pacific Ocean. And then what happens is it ends up getting washed ashore all over the place, but specifically in Hawaii. And I'm going to talk about what that looks like here on the Big Island, on Hawaii Island. The ocean connects us all, okay? So anything that comes into the ocean from Japan can surely make its way to Hawaii or to California or down into Mexico. And likewise, anything from California could easily get to Hawaii or to Japan or up to Alaska. This is a photo of Camilo. Camilo Point on Hawaii Island near the south tip. It acts like a sieve and it just collects all this marine debris. This is a more recent picture, but this picture is one from the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And as you can see, there's not nearly as much trash there now as there once was. And that's because of Hawaii Wildlife Fund and their volunteers. 2003 is when Hawaii Wildlife Fund started cleaning up down there, and we've done a lot of work over the last 10 plus years, 15 years, 20 years. All right, onward we go. So I'm going to share some information with you all now about what kinds of things people are picking up in the International Coastal Cleanup. Now, the International Coastal Cleanup happens, like in the name it says, internationally. All over the world, people gather around their coastlines and they go pick up trash and they record what they find. And this is what they found. Cigarette butts, single-use wrappers, plastic wrappers. Recognize any of those foods in there? Recyclable water bottles. Single-use straws. Plastic bags. And fishing gear. Derelict fishing gear or lost fishing gear. These are nets, ropes, lines, buoys, everything. As you can see, this is a huge pile of nets. See how little those people look up at the top? Crazy, huh? A lot of this stuff washes up here. Now, I will say that over the years, the order of these top 5 items changes a little bit, but it's always usually the same top 5 items. So that should tell you something. What does that tell you? It tells you that maybe we don't need to be using single-use plastic, but let's keep going and let's explore a little bit more. Ocean plastic.
Before you answer that question, we're gonna do a quick activity. So, hit pause if you need to. Go find yourself a rubber band. Just one for each person that's gonna be doing the activity. Ready? Go! Okay, so grab your rubber band, take your right hand, and you're gonna take, the palm of your hand is gonna face away from you, and the back of your hand faces your face. And then you're gonna take your rubber band and pull it from your thumb to your pinky, just like this. Okay, girls, do you have your rubber bands ready?
Yes.
All right, now put them on your hands like I instructed. Over the back of your hand from your thumb to your pinky. Show me the backs. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, now you're going to take the hand that has a rubber band and you're going to hold it up, and you're going to take your other hand and put it on your elbow. Okay? You may not use any other part of your body except for the hand that has the rubber band on it. And you have 30 seconds to try and take the rubber band off. Ready? Go. You can't use your chin. You can only use the hand that has a rubber band on it.
This is hard to learn. Nico, are you sure you want to be in this video? This is fun.
Delaney, keep your left hand on your elbow.
This is so fun, but hard.
Okay, 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, oh, Delaney, no! 6, 5, 4, no cheating. 3,
And
2,
with the hair off my face.
1. Neither of these girls were able to get their hands loose. Were you? That's the end of the activity. We're gonna go back to the PowerPoint and discuss this. So what you might have experienced just now was sort of a simulation of what a monk seal might experience if they were stuck in a big rope or net. And their hand was stuck and they were trying to get out. And what might happen to you if you were underwater and holding your breath, trying to get out from this rope that had you stuck? Do you think that your heart would start pounding and pound? Do you think you might get stressed? Eventually you might run out of air.
Okay. And then
I won't paint the rest of the picture. You'll see it in the next slide.
So, welcome back. So now let's answer that question. Why should we care? This is why we should care. And you just experienced on a much not as crazy level, right? These guys are actually losing their lives. You did not lose your life, but you might have experienced a little bit of panic, a little bit of adrenaline in getting your hand stuck in that rubber band, right? So animals are getting entangled in our marine debris. That's the first threat of why we should care. Entanglement. Say it. Entanglement. All right. There are 3 reasons I'm going to give you right now. The first one is entanglement. The next one, which I'm not going to make you reenact, is ingestion. Now that sounds like digestion, right? When you go to the bathroom, after you ingest your food and you take it into your body, you then digest it in the bathroom, right? So that's how we're going to remember this. Ingestion. Animals in the ocean and seabirds and such, and even animals and humans on land are ingesting plastic because there's so much of it in the environment. This photo is of a baby albatross bird. I don't know what you know about albatross, but they're these really beautiful, beautiful birds with a very long wingspan. And before they can fly, while they're a little baby bird, their parents feed them. Their parents go out to sea and they forage on the ocean for thousands and thousands of miles, and then they come back. And this sounds gross for humans, but for birds, it's totally normal. The parents go out, they get the food, they ingest it a little bit, and then they regurgitate it into the mouths of their baby birds. And unknowingly, they are giving their baby birds plastic. Now, take a look. What do you see in there? I see a lighter. I see some bottle caps. And what we see happening is the body of this baby bird, because this bird did not survive. It died because it has so much plastic inside of its body. It's starting to decompose, but the plastic inside is not decomposing. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But plastic is not food, right? We don't eat plastic. Now, if you want to learn more about these albatross birds, you can go check out Google bullous of an albatross, and you will see all the different sorts of things that are inside a bullous. Now, a bullous is a package of hard parts inside of the birds, and the baby birds must regurgitate that in order to fly, in order to fledge their nest. And what we're seeing inside of bullous, what do you think you're supposed to see? Hard things, maybe like squid beaks, right? But now we're finding pieces of plastic, and you see it right here. But go Google what a bullous looks like, and you might be surprised what you see. All right, so entanglement is the first one, ingestion is the second one, and now on to the third one, hitchhiking. What do we have here? We have a tiny little ball, plastic ball, in somebody's hand. Looks like someone has gloves on. And then we've got some gooseneck barnacles growing on there. And then I also see a blue crab. And that blue crab and those gooseneck barnacles are catching a ride on this plastic ball, this piece of marine debris, and they're floating wherever the currents take them. And this is a threat to Hawaii, especially because marine debris acts as a way for other species and potentially invasive or native inducing species, right? Species that come in and take over the natives. Invasive sounds like invade, right? Invasive species come into Hawaii. We don't have a lot of natural predators, and so invasive species come in and get a strong foothold and take out and outcompete our native species. So we're always thinking about this as biologists here in Hawaii. We want to protect our native species so that they can flourish and thrive. Okay, entanglement, ingestion, hitchhiking, and there's a fourth one. My apologies, I said earlier that there was 3, but there's 4. And this one is scouring, breaking, and smothering of the reef, of the coral. The smothering, breaking, and damaging of the coral. Now, corals are a colony of organisms, right? And they create this outside exterior shell, house, hotel, that they just keep growing. Now, coral depend on a symbiotic bacteria called zooxanthellae to make their food, to eat their food, to build their house. And so when we have nets falling on top of these colonies of many different kinds of organisms that need the sunlight, it can't collect the light, it can't survive, it can't thrive with this net on top of it. I'm having a little trouble here. All right, we're going to watch a video now about a brief history of how plastic has changed our world. So settle in, grab a drink, and listen up.
Plastics are being used to such an extent throughout the world that we may well ask what was used before its discovery.
Before 1950, plastic was barely a part of American life. So, how did our culture become so plastic? Modern plastic didn't really get its start until World War II, when the military realized how versatile it could be.
If you're old enough to remember the old-fashioned glass windscreens, this is what happened when you banged your nut.
Yeah, huge improvement there. But after the war ended, plastic companies needed to find new ways to sell their products.
Both sheets and powder are now being dramatically applied to peacetime living in hundreds of beautiful and useful ways.
And so, plastic went from protecting cargo to protecting our leftovers.
Food stored in baggies plastic bags always have the sound of freshness.
And nylon went from the skies to our thighs.
They stretch better to fit better.
And of course, who could forget?
My mama done told me, she told me, hun, we're having a party, a Tupperware party.
People went absolutely crazy for plastic.
In a new plastic decorator container.
Put them in a polyethylene plastic bag.
And to brighten up the plastic tree, plastic decorations.
Nowadays, everything can be made in plastic.
This was where our addiction began. For decades, Americans had a make it do or do without mentality. But our new throwaway culture fell in love with single-use plastics and didn't worry about the consequences.
Being disposable, there are no empties to collect. Vinyl and asbestos on the floor.
In fresh sun, sea, and sky colors.
Oh, the irony. During the 60s, global plastic production increased 400%, and by 1979, we were producing more plastic than steel. But people were starting to worry about plastic side effects.
Exposing animals to BPA resulted in serious ailments that signaled problems in humans.
We are suspicious of acrylonitrile because it's chemically related to vinyl fluoride.
Utter nonsense.
Side note, they were talking about these bottles specifically, which were created by Coca-Cola and Monsanto in 1975. And surprise, acrylonitrile is toxic, and it was used in food and beverage containers for 3 decades. It was finally banned in 1977, and the bottles were taken off the shelves. And as the research was stacking up, so was the garbage. Due to a landfill shortage, a ship nicknamed the Garbage Barge made headlines in 1987 after it wandered the shorelines for months looking for a place to dump its trash. And it got people talking.
They seem odd to you that for such a large country we're having trouble with our garbage, but we're drowning in this stuff.
So we added a 4th R to reduce, reuse, recycle. Refuse. With that, in 2007, San Francisco banned plastic bags.
They end up as a litter problem. The city has to spend tens of millions of dollars cleaning up that litter problem. They get in the ocean and they're ingested by marine mammals, turtles. They cause huge problems there.
The measure would require stores to offer only bags made of recyclable paper, reusable cloth, or new bio bags that can be turned into compost.
Powerful plastic lobbies freaked out, worrying that the trend would catch on, and spent millions trying to overturn the statewide bill in 2015. They also successfully lobbied states to preemptively ban plastic bag bans under the guise of protecting the consumer in the grocery stores. And so, the plastic bag remains, as does our plastic addiction. In 2014, 100 billion plastic bags were used in the US. That's almost 1 per person per day.
Wow.
We're still consuming plastics at a breakneck pace, even though we can literally see the toll it takes on our environment and wildlife. So far, some 700 species of marine animals have been reported to have eaten or been entangled in plastic. And scientists estimate that by 2050, virtually every seabird species on the planet will be eating it. Currently, only about 1/5 of all plastics get recycled, but it's going to take more than recycling to fix our plastic problem. We'll need to stop using so much of it in the first place. If we want to save our world and ourselves, we have to decide: planet or plastic.
Planet or plastic? Planet or plastic? What do you guys think about that? How did that make you feel? Did you already know some of those interesting facts about plastic? Is that the first time you're hearing about it? I know the first time I realized the extent of the plastic pollution issue, and I was angry and upset. I had no idea. I had no idea that fishing net piles as huge as your house were hanging out on the coastline or in the water. It just blew my mind. So, with that thought, we're going to take a break, and you're going to check out the next video, and we're going to explore a little bit more about why plastic has this bad rap. Is all plastic bad? We'll explore that next time. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll talk soon.